course, habit counts for a great deal. I know, for instance, after Father's death, it took us a great while to get used to not having any orderlies around. But aside from that, I know in this town, not so much in other towns, well, I wouldn't know, but it seems to me that men who are in the military are the most handsome and genteel and civilized.
I'm thirsty. I'd love some tea.
They'll soon be bringing it. I was married when I was 18, and I was afraid of my husband because he was a teacher and I had just left school. He seemed to me back then to be incredibly learned and educated and kind. Unfortunately, that's changed.
Oh, yes, that's how it is.
I don't speak of my husband. I've grown tired of him. The civilians in this town are just so crude and vulgar. Crudeness upsets and offends me. I am pained when a man isn't sufficiently kind or sensitive enough. When I'm around my husband's colleagues, the teachers, it's agonizing.
Yes, I suppose so. Well, that's how it is. It doesn't matter whether it's civilian or military personnel. They're all much the same. Just as interesting. At least in this town. If you listen to the local intelligentsia, it doesn't matter whether it's civilian or military personnel. They all say they're fed up with their wives. Fed up with their home lives. Fed up with their estates. Fed up with their horses. Russians have a wonderful aptitude for loftiness of heart. But why is it in reality they always sink so low? Why is it so?
Why should it be?
Why is he fed up with his children? Fed up with his wife? And why is his children and wife fed up with him?
You seem rather depressed today.
Yes. Perhaps. I didn't eat today. I've had nothing since morning. My daughter was rather ill. And when my daughters become ill, a great anxiety takes hold of me. My conscience tortures me that their mother is like the person she is. If only you had seen her this morning. It was so awful. We started a quarrel at 7 in the morning, and at 9 o'clock I slammed the door and left. It's strange I never talked about this. I seem to only complain to you. And don't be angry.
Oh, no.
I have no one else. I have only you. Only you.
What a noise in the stove! Shortly before Father's death, there was a rattle loose like that.
Are you superstitious?
Yes!
It's strange. You're wonderful and marvelous. You're a wonderful and marvelous woman. Well, it's dark in here, but I can still see the glint in your eyes.
It's brighter over here.
I adore. I adore. I adore. I adore your eyes, your movements, which I dream of. You're a wonderful and marvelous woman.
When you talk like that, I laugh. But I'm terrified, so please stop. No, you can keep going, please. Oh, someone's coming. Speak of something else.
Now, I've worked with you before.
On the same scene 2 years
Really?
ago. Yep.
And what do you think I'm going to say about this? I mean, what do you anticipate?
That I diffuse the tension a lot.
And so, are you ready for that?
Would you
I mean, are you ready
please?
for that feedback?
Yeah.
What is your reaction to that feedback that you just gave yourself?
I know I do it, and I do it in everyday life too. I laugh. all the time.
I just
You're in
want
a
you to
situation.
know, I think that you have so much potential. You have an expressive face, you have just everything kind of there, and you take it out of the scene. And I'm going to encourage you not to do that because it's so much more rewarding. What was your name? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I also think that you would get a different performance from Nick if you gave him more to be uncomfortable with. Where do you think you're diffusing?
Well, the laughing, and I know I get really stiff in the hands, and I
Okay.
clench them a lot.
Does that have a history thing?
It's just
Or
something
is
I
it
do in
just-
everyday
it's a
life
reaction?
too. So.
Okay. Do you want to get, do you want to do something different with that, or do you kind of like keeping it?
No, I like having lots of attention in the scene, definitely.
Okay. So I think you have it right as far as assessing that. And then there are points in the scene where I want to encourage. I like your cadence that you have, but you kind of laugh with her at times when I think it's almost like a polite reaction.
Right, exactly.
It's called implicature in everyday life.
Mhm.
If I smile at you, you'll probably
Yeah.
give me a smile back. If
Right.
I say hello to you, you will say hello back.
Right.
If I say how are you, you will answer the question. You say how are you. So there's
Right.
this built-in. If you say hey, how's it going, and I look at you, that's breaking implicature.
Right.
It's like an implication to that statement.
Yeah.
So in this situation, you want to be careful about returning something that you don't necessarily want in the scene.
Okay.
Because it is polite, but you actually can help. I forgot your name.
And Madeline.
Madeline. You can help Madeline
Mm-hmm.
by not doing that.
Interesting. Okay.
Now, this scene could get really serious too fast. I mean, it could become kind of a heavy.
Right.
So it's not like I'm after that.
Right.
I'm more after what this person is experiencing, because what you're doing is you are reflecting on your life, but confessing something at the same time.
Right.
It feels disloyal, but it feels at the same time right.
Right. Exactly.
There is in everyday life we do things. It's called meta communication when somebody's, the example some of you have heard me use is somebody's standing by the refrigerator and you say, man, I'm thirsty. Okay, you're communicating
Right.
something without
Right.
necessarily communicating. And this is saying two things at the same time. It's saying, I'm one of these people, and I'm sick of my horse, and I'm sick of all these things, and yet at the same time you're loyal because you start talking about your daughter.
Yeah.
It's a very conflicted psychological
Yeah.
state that
Yeah.
you're in.
Yeah.
So you want to be careful about laughing during that.
Right.
You don't need to be like stern and stoic about it either.
Right. Right.
You can be very expressive,
Right.
but you don't want to get kind of one-dimensional about this.
Right.
So I want you to do the scene again, and I'm going to interrupt this time with there's some other places where I want you to do a little bit of work. One place I'd like to start actually with the place where you meet. What's going on in that moment?
When I come around from behind her, or
Yeah, I'm not sure where
we're
you-
talking textually.
Where you touch each other physically.
Oh.
That first touch on the knee.
Yeah. The
Brand, is that
Yeah,
what you're talking
that's the first one.
Why is he fed up with his children? Fed up with his wife?
So that was a diffuser. So I want you to think about it, so you kind of know where I'm heading with that.
When I
Take
touched
it
him,
right
was it a
before.
diffuser?
Yeah, you were talking, and then you touched him. Can you take it right to that moment?
Yes. Why is yes? Why is he fed up with his children? Fed up with his life? And why is his children and why fed up with him?
You seem rather depressed today. That's the
Yeah.
diffuser?
No, I want that.
Okay, and then
But you keep it there.
long, okay.
Keep it there. So now, what's going to happen with this? Just so you know, this is a friend
Right.
holding her hand on your leg, consoling you, but you're also here for two reasons.
Yes.
So there's two elements. It's perfectly safe for a friend to leave her hand there.
I want it here, though.
So take it there, and this time keep your hand there and see what happens inside you when she
Right.
does that. Go ahead and try that.
Take it back a few
Yeah,
more
I'm gonna
lines.
take it. Take it from the little monologue I have. Yes, I suppose so. It doesn't matter whether it's civilian or military personnel. They're all much the same, and equally as interesting. At least in this town. If you listen to the local intelligence, it doesn't matter whether it's civilian or military personnel. They all say they're fed up with their wives, fed up with their home lives, fed up with their estates, fed up with their horses. Russians have a wonderful aptitude for lofting us apart. But why is it in reality they always sink so low? Why is it so?
Why should it be?
Why is he fed up with his children? Fed up with his wife? Why is his children and wife fed up with him?
You seem rather depressed today.
Perhaps.
Even longer.
I didn't eat today. I've had nothing since the morning.
All right. So, what did that do to you when she left it there?
Made me I had to think about what I wanted to say next.
Yeah, it did something different.
Yeah.
You were straddling two worlds.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's what the audience is experiencing.
Right.
Okay. When you say, why does a person get tired of his wife, there's an immense disloyalty, a crossing over when you look at her and you gaze at her.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
And keep the gaze,
Yeah.
because at that moment you're committing adultery.
Okay. Okay.
Do you see see how that is an important message?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And so, Nick, that line, when suddenly that line about food, about
Oh,
being
right.
hungry, becomes cover.
Yeah, yeah,
cover,
exactly.
cover,
Yeah,
cover,
yeah,
cover.
yeah, yeah,
Right? So,
yeah.
and it's just so much more powerful when you're feeling that,
Right.
and it becomes this just incredible, tense bit of cover that it's covering nothing.
Right.
But it's you trying desperately to cover that.
Right.
And now the audience feels that.
Mm-hmm.
So both of you are still smiling and laughing, and it's okay to do that when it's time to do that.
Right.
But what is going on with your person? What is she experiencing?
I think she's incredibly nervous because she's supposed to marry this other guy, and this is the one she wants, but he's married. He's just like staying in her house for a while. It's a guess.
What do you think she's experiencing in this situation other than nervousness?
Just I think she wants to get down. I mean,
Longing.
yeah,
So long.
yeah. Sorry, that was not a very elegant way to say it.
20%.
Yeah.
Just to get
Okay,
down.
so longing, restraint,
Definitely.
carefulness. So it's not just one dimensional. So I think you want to take the nervousness in some ways out because there's familiarity in this relationship, and you make it unfamiliar when you put in the nervousness.
Okay.
So let the nervousness leak out. Like it's almost like a secret in these situations. When we're nervous with somebody that we're not supposed to be nervous with, we conceal it. We don't expose it. I experience that as a psychologist. You know, people come in and they have big news, or they have a regret, or they have, and it's almost like confession sometimes. There's a redemptive aspect to what I do. So the person comes in and they're trying not to look nervous.
So Madeline, is your subtext in this longing, wanting, is that what's going on?
Yeah.
And what you're doing is you're expressing that subtext with nervousness. Let's find a different way to express that subtext.
What do you think? Could we just try it?
Yeah, sure.
All right, let's go ahead and this time I will interrupt,
Okay.
but I'm not gonna do a whole bunch of interrupting this time because I wanna get through it and get the second
Right.
all the way through. And by the way, when you're reading the paper, don't look up at her yet.
Okay.
Keep pretty focused on the paper, just for realism.
Okay. Even saying that, I should actually be reading the paper then?
Yeah, read the paper while she's talking to you even. Yeah.
Okay.
See what that does for you.
I don't know. I don't know. Of course, habit counts for a great deal. I know, for instance, after Father's death, it took us a great while to get used to not having any orderlies. But aside from that, in this town, I'm not so sure if it is the same in other towns, but it seems to be that the most courageous and educated and put-together men are in the military.
I'm thirsty, I love some tea.
They'll soon be bringing it.
Okay, stop for a second. Pause after she says that. Normal silence, 0.72 seconds. So you want to go further than 0.72 seconds. Let that pause create that, because it's the statement that you're making doesn't have any place.
Right,
The
right.
pause is change of subject kind of thing, but you let that pause be there. When you're talking, you're still smiling, and that, which is fine for part of it. But there's a statement in there that I'm not sure you want to smile in, which is what?
I guess I'm being honest when I say the most educated, put-together men are in the military. I'm trying to
Okay.
give him a compliment.
So who is the guy you're going to marry?
The Baron.
He's a baron, not.
No.
Is that?
Yeah, that's right. Not a,
Size middle.
this
Not-
is
No,
the
it's not
military
him.
man.
It's
Yeah,
the
I
old
know.
guy.
Yeah, and the
He's
other one is not.
the military
Right.
guy. He's the military guy. So are there no implications to that statement?
Yeah, definitely implications.
Okay, so start over and try that.
I'm sorry, with reading, am I listening to her?
You are kind of.
Okay, okay.
You can give her a husband nod kind of thing.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, habit counts for a great deal. I know, for instance, after Father's death, it took us a great while to get used to not having orderlies. But aside from that, in this town, I'm not so sure if it's the same in other towns, but it seems to me that the most handsome and put-together and well-educated men are in the military.
I'm thirsty, I love some tea.
There. That's a different feeling completely. And the reason I was asking you to do the paper is not because of the messages you were sending. I was giving Madeline something to work with.
Right, totally, totally.
And did you feel like you
Yeah.
had more to work with there? Because you were trying to
Definitely.
draw him out.
And he's-
Instead of it being a nervous interaction, it was like attempting to reach out to him. Because this scene is full of this, like meta messages, meta messages,
Right.
meta messages. And then meta messages culminate into the moment when you're physically touching each other. Let's go to that real quick, and then I want you to do the whole scene. The part where you are standing up and you turn towards each other, and it looks like you're about to kiss.
Oh, right. Is this after a door?
Could be. We could just start there.
Okay, okay.
Guess at the top.
I adore.
Now stop. Don't smile when you say that. Say it like you're confessing the
Okay.
most important truth of your whole life right now.
Alright. I adore. I adore.
There you go. Freedom.
I adore. I adore your eyes, your movements, which I dream of.
Slow this part way down.
You're wonderful. Marvelous.
When you talk terrified. So please stop. No, continue. I don't mind.
Okay, stop. Don't laugh after you. The laughter right
Okay,
before
right
that
there.
worked, but on this part, slow this moment down a lot.
Okay.
So say no, don't stop. But don't say it like you're laughing. Just tell him no. This is also an announcement to him,
Yeah.
which is you can kiss me. You can. This is okay with me. So you're nervously staying on one side of the tracks, and then you realize I've only got this one moment now. From this point forward, if I don't let him know this is okay, it's done, and I'm going to be married to this other guy. So now it's like the laughter, the nervousness, and then give us the experience of, no, don't stop.
So, Madeline, make the decision,
Yeah.
and it's a hard decision, right?
I don't know if this affects anything you're saying, but as soon as we like, touch, basically we hear somebody. Is that
Yeah, that's one of the reasons you need to slow it down too.
okay? Should we start from your line?
Sure. When you talk like that, I laugh. Even though I'm terrified. So please stop. No, continue. I don't mind.
Slow.
Someone's coming. Speak of something else.
Okay, stop. Don't be so, you hear something
Yeah.
and make us uncomfortable by how long that noise happens, and you're not being affected by the noise.
Oh, okay.
So we need somebody to make a noise out here for the next,
Yeah, that'd be great.
for the next version of this.
Yep.
But the noise is there.
Okay.
You don't part, but then you go to the sort of, we need to get into these other
Right.
positions.
Right.
Because this is something that you've both wanted for a very long time. You're not going to be that quick to let it all
Right.
go.
Okay.
Don't stop.
No. Continue, I don't mind.
No, don't smile.
Okay.
This is you telling him the truth. This is horrible truth.
No. Continue, I don't mind. Someone's coming.
There.
Speak of something else.
Okay. Good. Now, is it okay that we're doing this? I mean, we're cutting off some of the escape routes that you're, as far as
Definitely.
emotion goes. Can you feel it?
It's fine with me.
And what's that like to feel this character more instead of diffusing it away?
Like you just said, it's definitely, I'm feeling the character more, and it's like instead of just like, look at me, I'm pretending to be this chick, I can actually.
Experiencing her. Okay. So is there ways to take what we've been talking about and generalize it to the rest of the scene?
Yeah.
I think so.
So let's go ahead and see what that looks like. And we'll go ahead and, I guess you're taking all along.
I don't know. Of course, habit counts for a great deal. I know after her father's death, it took us a great while to get used to not having any orderlies. But aside from that, I know in this town, I'm not so sure if it's in the other towns, but the most educated and put together and handsome men are in the military.
I'm thirsty. I'd love some tea.
They'll soon be bringing it. I was married when I was 18, and I was afraid of my husband because he was a teacher and I had just left school. He seemed to me to be so learned and educated and kind back then. Unfortunately, that's all changed.
Yes, that's how it is.
I don't speak of my husband. I've grown tired of him. The civilians in this town are so crude and vulgar. Crudeness upsets and offends me. I am pained when a man isn't sufficiently kind or sensitive or pliable enough. When I'm around my husband's colleagues, the teachers, it's agonizing.
Yes, I suppose so. It doesn't matter whether it's civilian or military personnel.
Okay, stop. I'm gonna have to stop you.
Yes, sir.
Diffusing. I mean,
I
there's
know.
more. For some reason, we returned back.
I
Both of
know,
you.
I did.
When she is nervously saying, "Well, I'm amongst my things," make it uncomfortable for
Yeah.
us
Mm-hmm.
by not laughing. It's not that funny,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And so you did the implicature laugh instead of the laugh that really has to do with it being funny.
Right.
You're contemplating right now having a very serious moment with her.
Right.
This is on your mind. You're contemplating this.
Right.
So some of this isn't even reaching you.
Right. Exactly, and that's why I think I'm responding with laughing, is because I'm not, and she's laughing. I'm
Yeah,
like,
I should just
I'm
stop
like,
it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
exactly.
It's hard to
So-
get out of those ruts.
It's okay. You actually, I'm
Yeah.
much more. The first part of this, until you started to leak a little bit
Yeah.
out, I felt so much more connected to you. Do other people have the same experience? So I'm rooting for you, but there's a clear mourning in this moment that is not written. It's all in your body language. Is the mourning part of this, but the internal part of this process is, I'm about to go into this other life that I've already been through.
Mhm.
You know, so as you're talking about this stuff, it is real important not to let it diffuse, because we're
Yeah.
sort of a buildup. And you looked up at her a couple of times, and I think it made it harder for Madeline to do the. You
Oh,
looked
so
up
should
at
I
her.
stick with that then?
Stick
the
with
actual scene? Okay.
I think stick with it to give her more to work with. I mean, it's okay
Okay.
to look up, but
Right.
make sure that that you're actually not participating in the conversation,
Right.
because this is in some ways a monologue, and it's not supposed to be a monologue, and we're sitting here as an audience going, what's going on?
Right.
The reason a person in your situation can read a paper in here is because his head is filled with, I think I'm going to say something to her.
Right. Okay.
Have you ever driven someplace and all of a sudden you arrive?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and you're thinking of all the dead people on the road. Okay, that's kind of what's going on. You're leaving the room while she's talking,
Right.
kind of coming and going. So it's perfectly, it's not rude.
Mhm.
I think you're trying to be polite.
Right. Okay.
In some ways, the reason for not looking up is different than reading the paper,
Right.
different from ignoring her. It's because you are completely in a different mental realm.
Right.
Okay, let's do it again. You're doing great. This is good.
I don't know. Of course, habit counts for a great deal. I know, for instance, after Father's death, it took us a great while to get used to having no orderlies around. But in this town, it seems, I'm not so sure in other towns, but it seems to me that the most put together and educated and handsome men are in the military.
I'm thirsty. I'd love some tea.
They'll soon be bringing it. I was married when I was 18, and I was afraid of my husband because he was a teacher and I had just left school. He seemed to me back then to be so educated and learned and kind. Unfortunately, that's changed.
Yes, that's how it is.
I don't speak of my husband. I've grown tired of him. The civilians in this town seem to me to be so crude and vulgar. Crudeness upsets and offends me. I am pained when a man isn't sufficiently kind or sensitive or pliable enough. When I'm around my husband's colleagues, the teachers, it's agony.
Yes, I suppose so. But it doesn't matter whether it's civilian or military personnel. They're all much the same, and just as interesting, at least in this town. If you listen to the local intelligence, it doesn't matter whether it's civilian or military personnel. They're all much the same. They all say they're fed up with their wives, fed up with their home lives, fed up with their estates, fed up with their horses. Russians have a wonderful aptitude for loftiness of heart. But why is it in reality they always sink so low? Why is it so?
Why should it be?
Why is he fed up with his children? Fed up with his wife? And why is his children and wife fed up with him?
You seem rather depressed today.
Perhaps. I didn't eat today. I've had nothing since morning. My daughter was rather ill, and when my daughters become ill, great anxiety takes hold of me. My conscience tortures me that their mother is like the person she is. If only you had seen her this morning. It was so awful. We started a quarrel at 7 in the morning, and at 9 o'clock I slammed the door and left. Strange, I never talk about this. I seem to only complain to you. Now don't be angry. I have only you. I have no one else. No one.
What a noise in the stove! Shortly before Father's death there was a rattling, just like this.
Are you superstitious?
Yes.
That's strange.
Yes. Strange.
You're a wonderful, a marvelous, you're a wonderful and marvelous woman. It's dark in here, but I can see the glint in your eyes.
It's brighter over here.
I adore. I adore. I adore. I adore your eyes, your movements, which I dream on. You're a wonderful, a marvelous woman.
Please stop. When you talk like that, I laugh. But I'm terrified. So please, stop. No. Go ahead. I don't mind. Someone's coming. Speak of something else.
Good.
So, what changed?
A whole lot of tension.
It's good, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's good. I look forward to you watching the before and after.
Yes, so do I.
Because they were, in my opinion, they were completely different scenes. It was more communicated in this version that makes us squirm, makes us uncomfortable. If you do this again at some point, don't forget to break the loyalty of to your wife in that moment when you look at her. Why do we get tired of our wives?
Right. Oh, yeah, you know, when I did that,
I should be
I
looking
only, that's not to do it, it's not about perfecting it, it's mostly about you experiencing
Yeah.
the disloyalty. And you can decide whether that becomes part of it or not.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
but I think both of you will experience the disloyalty of that moment if you hold that gaze just a little bit
Right.
longer than that. It doesn't need to be really long, by the way,
Right.
just long enough that it's like, oh, this is wrong, this is disloyal.
Mhm.
But then you keep coming back, and you can feel, by the way, what do you guys think? Do you feel the vacillation now between the two worlds? And I think you guys accomplished that in a way that the first part didn't, second part absolutely.
Mhm.
So,
It really felt as if they were, like you said, very familiar. That they kind of have these conversations a lot, and they don't need to say like, "I'm sorry, that's really tough" at all.
Yeah.
I agree with that. You know.
yeah, and that's called intersubjectivity, which is when there is something known between two people that does not need elaboration. It is an inside joke. It's a mutually understood state of
Right.
affairs that doesn't require an explanation, and you guys accomplished that. So, any other comments? Amir?
My one thing is, I'm wondering, and I'm going to ask you this question at the top, if right after the paper thing, right after your line about military men, if instead of this uncomfortable movement, if there's the first moment of locked eyes, that then you break with "I'd like some tea." I wonder
Oh,
if
yeah,
that might
yeah,
be
yeah.
interesting to try.
There was a
Let's see.
hint of one, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I just
yeah.
wonder if that might be one of those moments where it might just a little bit longer,
Yeah.
and it is this
Try
lock that
something
just
to
kind of,
say,
and then snaps.
Right.
Might be a little bit more.
Right.
Yeah, it was a little shorter than I was hoping, but
Yeah.
it was almost there.
Yeah.
Somebody else said?
I just have a tiny question. When you keep repeating "I adore,"
Yeah.
are you like? I was getting a little confused about, like, when you say why are you saying it over and over again? Are you like saying it because you're finally got the courage and then something stops you? I don't know. Like,
Oh, what?
I guess, like, yeah. Why do you keep repeating it until you finally finish the
Because
thought?
because I'm each one's a test to see I'm taking a step closer, and is she gonna stop me? It's okay. I'm dipping my toes in the water. Each one, getting farther and farther.
Because I was just wondering because it felt like each statement was its own statement, and I felt like maybe you were trying to say what you eventually come.
Yeah,
to
well,
say.
the movement part of it, and just with repeating it is part of the. Is this okay? Is the water too cold?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I guess with that, I didn't see anything to stop you from saying the whole
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Right. And so yeah, and so well, and I think. Yeah.
thing. Like if it's her,
Yeah,
she's got
it
to let
would-
her
I would
stop
have
you.
to stop you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what I'm anticipating, is because that's what it's a repetition. So I think it's maybe more the character anticipating that it'll stop, and yeah.
Maybe I'll get something to play off the next one.
Yeah.
Well done. Very
Thanks,
well
guys.
done.